Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I'm your host, Edgar De Jesus, and yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas, and yes, today we are in studio, so we are with the Cannonball King himself, Mr. Spider. That's what I'm talking about.
We only do the good ones when it's freezing outside.
There we go. Today we're talking to Bob Nolan and Stan Resnick with the Poolside Tech, the attendant. But before we do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started today, we want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA, Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Pool Brain, and Poolside Tech. Zacharias, good morning. What's going on?
It feels weird. This is my first time in the studio in a while. And I don't think it's been since the international show.
The first one of the year?
First one of the year. I feel like a newbie. Forgot my laptop, but no, I'm doing good. We just got the winter storm of a lifetime down in Houston, Texas. It's weird.
Is that what they're calling it now? A lifetime?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, every storm we get anymore is like, this is the storm, an 800-year storm or whatever, but I think they're just regular storms at this point. But the interesting thing is I'm from North Idaho, and my parents came down, and they had no snow in Idaho. Meanwhile, we're getting just hammered
bombarded
down here. Yeah, so...
Did they laugh at your snow?
No, it was actually, they skirted out of here like a day before
to
so
they missed it.
Belize, so they missed it, but it was a legit snow, so... But other than that, everything's going good. I'm excited to be in here with you guys. I think this is such a great story after getting to hear it, so I'm excited to share it with our listeners.
Absolutely. Just to let you know, John, he got home last night, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he was still talking about the attendant, and I was like... bopping my head on the sofa, and I'm like, finally, I was like, bro, you need to go to bed. You're normally in bed by 9, and he's like, no, but this is so cool, and just so we had to put him down.
You had to put him down.
Yeah, I had to put him down. Mr. Flawless, good morning. Look, you came out for the last podcast. You got snowed in. I never got to see you that whole time, and
yeah, look, it feels good to actually be outside of the cage here in Texas. Last week or the week before was interesting when we got snowed in. That was fun, but it was a good time because it was a well-deserved vacation, and we got to spend time with the family and the in-laws, and they got to play in the snow, and I brought my daughter out, and she was doing little snow angels, and it was good because it worked out for me because for Christmas I promised them that I'd take them out to the snow, but we were looking for places out in California like Big Bear, and we were going to go up to Tahoe, and nothing had snow in the prediction, right? And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So we ended up staying home.
Dallas.
But little did I know, dreams
go to
came
Texas
true.
for snow.
And we came to Texas, and we got snowed in, and they were happy as hell, and they were loving every second of it. And then this week, it's nice and cold. It feels
it's
good.
freezing, dude.
Yeah, and then, but speaking of snow, you saw Florida, right? Did you see the
insane? They got a lot of snow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so
that's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird. But I don't know. I don't know anymore when it comes down to it.
Zach, can you kind of fill us in as to why that's? No, I'm just kidding.
I just
can.
Don't go down that rabbit hole.
Hold on, he pulls out his tin foil,
yeah.
right? Puts on his hat, right, and starts talking about it.
Drops the chip out of his phone,
right?
No,
but I just wish I would get some of the cold weather where we're at, because it's hot. We had the hottest winter I think ever. It hasn't gone like below like 60 degrees where I'm at right now. So whatever.
Insanity.
And it is. And we have mountains, right, that surround us. And usually during the wintertime, every winter, there is some snow up in the tram and up in those mountains. But we have not had one lick of snow where we're at. So I don't know. Whatever. But I'm excited to be here. It's good to be back in the studio. Feels great. I feel a little weird that I don't have Mama here. But we do have a handsome substitute, right?
We have Ben.
Right? Ben. Are you going to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
There he is. Mama staying home, spending time with the family. But look, I'm just excited to have Poolside Tech. I think yesterday was a pleasant surprise. Not saying that I went into it with low expectations. I'm just saying that it was awesome. You know, when you meet somebody, and I know we've talked before in the past, right? But it just seems like we hit it off really well, and everybody was having a great time, and listening to your story and how it aligns kind of like our story. And it's a similar, it's a similar story
For sure.
and it's inspiring, right? And it feels good. And I can't wait for the listeners to be able to hear where you guys came from, how it started, why you're here, and then what you're going to be doing in the future. This is going to be a very entertaining. I think it's going to be a very awesome podcast. And we're already talking about doing a second series or another podcast with you guys.
Did
there's
Stan
just so
commit
much
to that?
information. He did. He already
He
did.
committed?
He already committed.
They twisted my arm.
Even
Yes,
after the
he
photo
did.
shoot?
Look, I was just wondering if you guys were going to show up today, right? You know what I mean? I was telling Edgar, I'm like, okay, are they even going to show up?
They're not
Did they have
coming.
a bad time? Okay, no, we're vibing good, right? We're on the same page. But no, this is going to be a great podcast, and this is just going to be a little bit of a backstory of where you guys came from and why you're here. And then hopefully we're going to get a little bit into some of the goodies that you guys have for the pool industry and what's in store for us down the road. And stay tuned for another part episode coming to you soon.
Absolutely. Bob, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So I'm Bob, CEO of Poolside Tech. And as I was telling you guys, 5 years in the pool industry now, which was kind of shocking that we've come this far.
It's
So-
crazy. It's crazy how you just kind of blank and then boom.
I
It's
remember
like-
when we first met like 4 years ago, right? And you guys were kind of 2 or 3 years in, and we had just kind of discovered the industry, right? And here we are, right? So like that part's exciting.
You know, the more fun you're having, the faster time goes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my background was in restaurant technology, for those of you who don't know. So if you went to Burger King, Wendy's, Popeyes, Arby's, Checkers, we were the people who did the point of sale system, digital menu boards, kiosks, industrial control of the kitchen equipment. So the fryers, the warming drawers, the broilers, things like that. All the labor management systems, inventory management systems. So we had a pretty big background in industrial control, a pretty big background in hospitality and, user interface type things. And how do you get a consumer to, eat more cheeseburgers like we would do?
Why did you say that and look at John?
I was actually looking at you.
I love cheeseburgers.
He said, "How do I get more people to eat more cheeseburgers?" And he
No.
totally looked
Yeah.
at you like,
Yeah.
He's looking at you saying you need to eat a cheeseburger,
More
bro.
cheeseburgers, yeah. Yeah, so here comes Edgar in the drive-thru. We would catch his plate and realize he's a 2 cheeseburger and a Coke kind of guy. And he hasn't ordered like a pie lately, right? And we would try to get him to order something more. Like maybe we can get Edgar to eat a larger size of fries or, go and eat a delicious Hershey pie, right? And, we built that company up. We were in 50,000 restaurants, 64 countries. We did have a private equity sponsor that eventually sold, right? But for 25 years, I've been doing tech. And here we are now with
Now-
pool tech.
let me ask you, how quick before you went from 0 to 50,000?
Took a long time.
A long time.
Yeah, long time. Took
Yeah.
20 something years.
Okay, so it was
it was a hard, it's just like starting over in pools. Like you got to get your first one.
Yeah.
And you got to realize, boy, I got to do all these other things to get more customers, right? And then you get to the second customer and immediate, contact with the enemy again. It's like, oh no, now I need to do all these other things. You get to like your third dealer and it's like, oh, now they want this, that, and the other thing. Same is true in restaurant, right? So you got to be willing to roll up your sleeves, do a lot of hard work, be ready to, lick your wounds, realize, boy, you don't know everything about cheeseburgers or chickens or swimming pools, right? And there's a lot of people that know more than you, or at least know like one nugget more about something else that you didn't know about, right? And you got to be willing to listen to that, like realize you're being told like something very important, right? And it's it's obviously important to the customer, right? And that's what matters, right? And
Right.
How many countries did you say?
64.
That's impressive.
That's insane, right?
Yeah.
50,064.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to get into that technology because we talked about it yesterday and I geeked out. I even went home and I started talking to Leanne about it.
Yeah.
How she was like completely intrigued. Let me give a good morning here to Stan. Stan, how you doing?
Good morning.
We're excited to have you here.
Us as well. This is we've been really looking forward to getting to spend some time with you guys, and obviously the rest of Pool Nation.
Absolutely. So, what was your take on yesterday?
No, maybe we
I'm
don't want that. We'll wait for the break.
Too soon.
Too soon.
For those of you who have never done a
filter that
photo
answer
shoot
first. Let's filter that answer.
with Pool Nation.
Let's vet it first before we get to put it on air. No, I'm just kidding.
It was great fun, actually.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it, and I think the internet will remember it forever.
So, I think we should post the video of Bob doing the catwalk. What do you think? Do you think? Do you give me the green light? I just need the green light from one of you. Forget about Bob right now. Forget about Bob right
Ben
now.
is raising his hand. I think Ben feels like that might raise
Bob
sales.
hasn't been very nice this morning.
This
so
morning.
I think we should.
Yes. Okay. So sorry about that, Bob, but it's going on right after the podcast.
Man.
So,
Oh boy.
So I want to talk really quick about the technology because I think one of the things, especially with the attendant, is kind of how you guys look at the technology and where automation itself was and where it should be and the things that it should be doing for the end user. And there's a huge parallel to that, right? To what you guys used to do. And I got a little bit excited about that. So when you guys were developing your POS system and working in that, and you started to work on all these different automations, what were some of the things that did that gave something to the end user to be able to run their business?
Well, so it might seem straightforward enough, but believe it or not, there's basic problems. I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody comes to some burger restaurant and orders a hamburger. And then they say, hey, I'd like you to add cheese to that. Well, that's a cheeseburger now. And believe it or not, up until we started doing that in the point of sale business, the operation had no way of realizing that a hamburger and a piece of cheese made it a cheeseburger. And so if you were looking at how are my cheeseburger sales doing, you had no answer to that question that was really comprehensively reliable. And so, there's a million of these little things that when they come together, make for a much easier product for the cashier to use, because now the cashier didn't have to think about, oh, no, I actually need to now in my head convert the fact that this customer said words in this particular order, right, and make that be rung up as a cheeseburger. They could just do what the customer was telling them in real time, and then the computer behind the scenes would do the right thing. And I think there's a lot of parallels to that in the pool business and the attendant product that we tried to carry over.
Okay. And you guys talked about it yesterday, and I know once I open the floodgates for John, he's going to go down this rabbit hole here. But you guys talked about, like, especially with that type of system that kind of evolves, right? And it was able to give you a certain data. And Bob, you were talking about certain things like, the system has to work for you so that you're able to know, hey, on a Tuesday afternoon at 12 o'clock, you're going to have to make 150 patties, right?
Yeah,
you go
right.
through 13 pounds of potatoes.
That's right.
And you need to have John sitting there at, 11:45 doing those. Talk a little bit about that technology and the things that it did.
So restaurants are kind of like little mini factories, right? You have raw ingredients, right? And they're assembling them into delicious meals or sandwiches or whatever, salads, whatever it is you're into. What we had to do for the kitchen, right, was not only the industrial control to make sure that, hey, the fryer's at, 300 degrees or whatever it needs to be at in order to make sure you can safely put chicken in there and it's not going to, hurt somebody, right? We had to make sure that, the chicken was in there long enough, right, that, it was cooked, right, and no one took it out, right, because that would be bad. You try to make sure people don't put like fish patties and French fries in the same bin because that would be gross, right? But then, when do you need to make something? Like, hey, as you mentioned, like, hey, it's Tuesday and it's, 11:45 and we do anticipate we're going to sell, 100 cheeseburgers and 12 hot dogs. You need to get Edgar into position, to grab these patties out of the freezer and start cooking them in a timely manner, right? And you might need to get, John into position to get the bread ready and, be ready to put the burger patties on the buns and put the lettuce and tomato on top, right? And get that all ready. Right. And then you also have the added dimension of like, is Edgar qualified to run the boiler? Right. Maybe he's not. Maybe Edgar's only qualified to mop the floors and take out the trash. Like, Edgar hasn't been, qualified to.
I agree.
They keep
I
picking
agree.
on me, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is
Damn.
a retaliation yesterday, right? So,
Well,
So-
you did bring up the catwalk.
Yeah.
I did bring up the cat.
So like
Yeah.
in the event that Edgar's not qualified to use a grill, then maybe John has to do that, right? And Edgar has to be, performing other duties around the restaurant, right? So, has this person been trained on this particular task, right? Are they going to be able to do it safely, right? Are they going to be able to do it correctly? Like how often, does John assemble a cheeseburger correctly versus incorrectly? How often are you giving the customer the wrong order, right? Because, John is, not good at reading no tomatoes or something like that, right? And did Zach put it in the bag correctly, right? So there's all these things that kind of need to happen. Was it did he grab the materials? Were they ready in time? Were they cooked in time? Were they put on a bun? Did Zach grab them correctly and put them in a bag, right? And did all this happen correctly? And did it all happen in under 2 minutes, right? Like that's really what matters. Like, can you do all these things? Like, is everybody trained? They know how to do what they're supposed to do, and they can make this all happen in under 2 minutes. Honestly, like, it's a minute 45 is what people expect from the time they place an order, that they have all this stuff, correctly placed, in a bag, handed to you, and away you go, right? And there's a lot of stuff that went into like tracking the cars, like as we mentioned, like where they are in the line, right? Where, let's say, John was in his assembly of the cheeseburgers. Like, has he assembled them yet? Because we only got 30 more seconds, for Zach to put them in the bag, right? So like we're monitoring all this, right? And then you kind of monitor the performance. Well, maybe Zach's not good at putting things in bags, right? Maybe that's not for him, right? Maybe cashier is better for him. That's a high stress role of putting food in a bag. That has to happen really quick, right? And then you realize, like, are these like little tasks happening in time, right? Like, what should it take? How many seconds should Zach get to put, food in a bag, right? And you eventually, you get these things all timed out and you figure it out, and you can realize, automatically with the computers, like who's performing, who's not, what needs to happen. Maybe Zach needs more training, right? Like, he just needs more training on how to correctly grab things and do it faster, right? When was the last time he's been trained? So, we look at all those things and you try to, have a holistic picture and make all these things execute. And like you're graded on this, 1 minute and 45 second, never ending. I mean, Edgar, you worked in hospitality, like, how this goes. Like, you got to keep them turning and burning, right? And you can't go down. Like, it's never acceptable to like not take money from a customer. They want to order a sandwich and get out of there, right? So like that was the game, right? And in pools, it's kind of similar in like a really strange way, because like, one, you have industrial automation, so you're controlling pumps and heaters and heat pumps and salt cells and things like that, right? So you have to be able to control them all, and you have to be able to do it well. You have to be able to diagnose them. So just like we would diagnose, like, the grill's not working, let's stop John from putting patties on the grill, because in the event that he doesn't realize this would be bad, right? Or it's not up to temperature, like, you got to slow him down or something, alert him that, this is no good, right? The same thing is really true in pools, right? We have to know, the heater, it's not firing. It's not firing because of the stack sensor or something like that. The salt cell, it's not generating chlorine because of some flow switch or something, right? And there's a lot of correlations. And then the question is, what's next? Like, okay, is this something that's repairable? It is. Like, who's going to the job? Edgar. All right, is Edgar familiar with salt cells? Does he understand how to troubleshoot, I don't know, a flow switch in a salt cell? Like, maybe yes, maybe no. Does he have one on his truck, right? Is he prepared to, make the switch, right? And is he more trained in case it's something more complicated, like the board or something like that, right? Because you can know, hey, if it's not the most immediate resolution, like, what's next, right? And we saw swimming pools as like this huge opportunity of trying to, close some of those gaps, from a dealer point of view. Like, you want to make sure it's like super simple to install, easy to troubleshoot and diagnose things remotely, right? So unlike a restaurant, when you're a pool professional, you are normally tasked with driving to a pad, right? And a homeowner, of course, wants you there like right now, right? And of course, you're probably not there. You're somewhere else, almost always, right? When something happens, you're never in their backyard. So, the other problem was, how do we get all this information remotely, bubbling up, right? And as homeowners, we experienced like, okay, the existing technology that we were using, just simply didn't surface these things. And it wasn't really, the fault of the pool professional per se, because they didn't know this, right? It's just kind of like the status quo, right? And of course, in the pool industry, you have this next dimension of, is it on the shelf, of my favorite, wholesaler, right? And, the answer to that is not always yes, right? And now what? Oh, it's in Tennessee. Like, great, right? So knowing that something, needs to be addressed, proactively telling your dealer that, hey, you got to handle some heatsink error on a drive, right? And then, getting this happen ideally before the customer, knows, and you can be proactive. We thought, was one of the huge value adds, we could bring, and then on the front end of things, we thought, we should make this more fun and easier to use and like help our true end user, right? The homeowner, like, how do we help them save money? Like, how can we get patents out on like, using the weather, like to figure out when to turn on a gas heater at the last possible moment to save $20, $30 a day, right? How can we automatically detect, if the filter's dirty, right? Without adding any more equipment.
We talk about it all the time. And what's amazing is like looking at the restaurant technology that you were going through is it's data. It's data, and then there's fail safes put in to make sure that things don't happen. And we look at these businesses that you're talking about, and these businesses have grown into like these massive machines, right? These just money-making, efficient, corporate machines. But when you boil it down and all the things you're talking about, it's all about keeping the analytics. And that's something that KPIs and things like that. And that's something that I love about the current pool industry that we're in, is that we're starting to see more fail safes and more things come into it that allow us to kind of monitor and manage that data. I mean, and when you think about it, like data across all areas of the business, whether you're talking financials, whether you're talking efficiency, whether you're talking leading and building a culture, it just highlights right there, like how important it is to have something to monitor all that.
Yeah. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong here, right? And this is, we're talking about for our listeners that are listening and they're looking at, and they've never heard of the Attendant, right? And they might be going, okay, well, what is this machine and what is this thing? And how difficult is it? We're literally talking about the backyard. All this information that you're going to get to learn about right now has already been there. And that's right. Literally all the pieces to the puzzle was there. All the ingredients were there to make it, but nobody just thought it was important to put it all together, right? And then get you this information, or didn't see the value in it. And you guys came in and you had this, right? You had an epiphany, or you had something that kind of happened to you that kind of started this whole thing, right? And it started with your pool, right, in the backyard.
It started with our pool, and like I'm probably the only guy that never like fired his pool guy,
right,
and instead decided to become an equipment manufacturer, right, to solve the problem. I think most homeowners will get frustrated for one reason or another, like, oh, my heater broke and you didn't come on Saturday when I had my party, right? I'm angry, right?
Yeah.
But maybe the heater broke on Thursday or something, and like we saw it as an opportunity, right? We got to experience the other leading manufacturers just by being homeowners. And there's a lot of quality people that work for those other leading manufacturers, the big three. But our sense was the overall vision of where this industry could go was a lot greater than, what was currently being presented in the marketplace. And, being not from this industry and not knowing a thing, and who knows if we would have done this if we had had somewhat of a clue of how hard it would have been, right? But but you're an entrepreneur, right? You go for it and you figure it out, right? And you're gonna fail a lot, and it's gonna be really hard, but here we are, right?
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I like analogies too, and I look at it, and I think it's always good. And I know why companies sometimes you promote from in, sometimes you bring people from the outside different perspectives, right? Open your eyes to different potential. It's kind of like if anybody's ever done a puzzle or if everybody was working on a problem or something like that, and you're like so focused, laser focused on it, and you're working on what you think. And then I've had it, or like Janie, she loves to do puzzles, and she does them quicker than I'll ever do them because I get frustrated. And she'll sit there and she'll do them whatever, and then she's thinking, she can't figure out a piece, and then here I come out of nowhere, right? And she's been on this piece for like 30 minutes trying to find it. I go, oh, here you go, and boom, and put it in. Because I'm coming from a different, right, from the outside looking in, and I'm not in the minutia and all the BS, or, I'm not being affected by what other people say you can and can't do, or what people want or don't want, and getting a different perspective. You coming from the end user as a consumer, right, opposed to somebody who is actively working in the pool industry, just gives it a different perspective, and I think it encourages innovation.
And I that's what I want to ask about that. Like, I want to dig deeper into that moment and kind of understand, like, what were some of the things with the current landscape of automation that really stood out to you, like the potential?
So if we even wind the clock back just like a couple of years before that, like we saw in the restaurant industry, a lot of things changed. So like today we're very used to like DoorDash, Uber Eats. Like if you want something delivered, like it'll just show up. Like, will they charge you whatever? They might, right? But is it going to show up? Like, yeah. And like, are there lots of opportunities where you're not interacting with the person because you've ordered on a mobile app? Like, yes. And is there plenty of places you go and use a kiosk and order that way? Like, yeah. So like we saw this like evolution that kind of happened in restaurant over probably like 10 years, right? And we watched like paper menus go away and digital menus come. Actually, like one of the things, our biggest break was we were one of the first companies to put digital menus in restaurants, right? They just didn't exist, right? So we got lucky to be on like the leading edge of that, right? And that really launched us into the stratosphere, right? But when I was looking at the automation, like when, Stan and I and some of the other co-founders were looking at this, we're like, we had a lot of boring nights of just reading patents, right? So we sat back and, read, like the lovely Rob Stiles Pentair patents, right? And you sit back and you read these things and you kind of got like a sense for like, what is everybody thinking? Like, what are the product guys and the engineers like thinking about, how to solve these problems, right? And you quickly realize that, some of the things that would matter to me as a homeowner, and then what I believed would matter to my pool guy as a dealer, we're kind of absent, right? Like the things that could go right or go wrong for me, were not being thought about. Like some things were, but a lot of things weren't, right? And we started to think about like, well, why is this so? Like, why is it hard for any random automation system to actually like surface this as a problem or present this? And then you start looking at, well, how do they even configure these things to even, know, let's say how the plumbing is plumbed, right? How would you know, hey, my, I don't know, return actuator or my suction actuator isn't turning, right? And like, what does that mean? Like what is going to break downstream? Like the suction actuator of what, right? And what don't I get because of that? Maybe I don't get my pool or my spa, or maybe it's some other thing, like it's some negative edge suction actuator, like who knows, right? And like the question is like when something breaks, like, what does it mean? And like, how do I even know it's broken, right? So, we kind of spent months and months just looking at that stuff to think about what are all the ways, we could do things better. Like something as simple as should the automation tell you if the valve is not turning? Like we thought, yes, because if it doesn't turn, then it's not in the position, then therefore it's not going to do what you want. Now, could it be that, somebody accidentally left it in the off position? Quite frequently that happens, right? That happens a lot. But knowing that that's what happened, right? And the resolution procedure is, go, flip the tab, right? Like that's what needs to happen, right? Versus, it's not working, right? So we really wanted to try to figure out how far we could take it to say, this is not working, this particular pool device, right? And then as a consequence of that, these end user things like the fountain or the hot tub or whatever aren't going to work, right? And that's what kind of got us motivated, because we're like, it really sucks that these guys are driving around 2 hours here, there, and everywhere, right? And of course, they're not going to come right away, right? And like Stan and I are reasonably handy and can go outside and troubleshoot stuff, right? But a lot of people aren't, right? And it just seemed way too hard. And it just seemed like, gosh, if the dealer just knew, what was going on, like, and, the pump is failing, or like this or that, or hey, the filter's dirty, to be able to communicate with the homeowner, like, your homeowners, like maybe you tell, Mr. Smith can clean his filter because he does, right? Just, hey, go clean it. Like, you don't pay me for that, right? Or if it's, a customer on maintenance and gosh, I wish I cleaned the filter better, or I didn't do it, right? And like, yeah, now the salt cell's not generating, or the heater's not fine, right? That's on me, right? And just knowing that these things are about to happen is also critical too. Like the filter's getting dirtier and dirtier. Like really,
and think about that. Think about that from the business standpoint, right? And there's a lot of systems that don't have that, right? For you guys to start thinking in that way. But I start going back into my good old days of doing pools and doing exactly that, right? Like just driving around, waiting for the customer to call and say, hey, this is not working. Okay, I'll be all right there. I'll try to be right there. But John, you do a lot of vacation rentals. You do, a lot of residential pools, but you have a system that's talking to you, and you should implement it on an everyday basis, right? But in your case, for the vacation rental, that the weekend is coming up. You have these systems telling you, hey, John, here's these 5 different problems. You are going to be able to look at them and go, hey, these 3 right here, oh, well, they're not as important, but oh, shoot, like that pump is not working anymore, right? I know it's a vacation rental. I know I have somebody checking in. So you can look at that at the beginning of the day and go, man, I got to do all these other things, but now I have to get to this pool before then. And then think about that. A, you're being more efficient. B, you're solving an issue for the customer before the customer even knows that that's coming up in your business, right? To implement that, and you have a service manager, right? And a repair guy. Think about that from a daily basis. You can have somebody in the office looking at all this data like we're talking about, right? Being able to get the analytics, being able to get the data to run a lot more efficient freaking business. And then we're on top of it. And for the pool guys that are in the foundational stage that don't know a lot of things, right? They do get a heater error. And guess what? I don't know how to fix it, but I could pick up the phone and call John or call Zach or call Justin or call Ben and say, hey, guys, I'm going to have a problem. I know that these people are having a party and now the heater's not coming up. Can you get to it, right? Rather than waiting for Saturday morning for the call going, hey, I just fired up the heater and it's not working. What's going on? And now you in that foundational stage not be able to do anything.
Well, think about it. Like we talk about adding value to your clients, and being proactive is one of the key things that we talk about, and being empowered to be able to take a proactive approach to serving your customers. I mean,
100%, right? It keeps you from becoming a reactive, right?
Yeah.
You want to act. You don't want to be reactive to things.
And it's the way technology should work.
And when you have multiple accounts, right, especially if you're dealing with 50, 100, 150, 200 accounts, you start to really appreciate being able to see in the future a little bit, right? And to plan your day out, because there are days, and it's the same thing with us, where we are planned down to the minute. And I know when we're supposed to be somewhere. We have customers that expect us at a certain time. We try to fit in whatever repair calls, new home quotes, whatever we can do. We do it efficiently, right? And then when we get thrown a wrench into our day, and it all happened, and it's something that could have been avoided if you're paying attention. You bring up a great point about Airbnbs. We do a lot of Airbnbs, and the things that go on, right, at Airbnbs
are constant.
It's just and disgusting sometimes, especially in spas, right? And you look at it. This is what we do, right? I'm looking at it, and if I have whatever automation I have, if it's Aqualink or if it's ScreenLogic in the days, I would look at it, and I'd be looking at GPM, right? And I'd see where my flow's at. I'd look at my Jandy. It didn't tell me that, but I'd see where the watts are and what the speed is, and I'd know how much rough flow I'm getting, right? Because I'm not worried about the heater not firing, right? Because that's when it's really gotten bad, right? But a lot of complaints for us in our systems, the way our builders build things, is we don't have jet pumps. The filter pump does the jets, right? And then they get excited and they put a lot of jets in there, and you need a lot of flow in order to create that jet action, right? So the difference between 10 GPM makes a huge difference, because we'll get a call. The jets aren't working. The jets aren't working. The jets aren't working, right? And everything was fine, but we get back to back people check out, at 11 o'clock and people are checking in at 3 o'clock. So I need to be able to plan and figure things out. If we have to go there and clean the filters in between because we were just fine before, and then we go over there and you talk about chicken and hamburgers and pools, you said, right? Well, same thing with us. The stuff that goes on in those spas are pretty gnarly, right? And we get food and who knows what the hell goes on in there. So those filters get pretty dirty. Okay, I'll leave it at that. So, having insight like that, we really appreciate it, and to be able to have that ability and, to sit and think that all this knowledge was already there at our, at our disposal, but we weren't putting the parts together and having a system now like the Attendant, right? That it's able to get that information. It's all about data, right?
Yep. That's what,
and using the information there. We're excited to be able to start harnessing that technology because it helps, right? Don't be afraid of it. Utilize it for your own.
Right.
And then for people too, and do filter cleans. Same with us. We do them every 4 months, but sometimes they need them. Sometimes they need them a little earlier. We like to keep track of it. You never know what's going on, especially when you have a lot of pools and you have other people that are servicing your pools as well, and you're not there yourself servicing it. You have it, and you can't. Even though your technicians might be amazing, but they're not. They're probably not as good as you. So they don't understand it quite as well. If you have the foresight and say, hey, look, maybe this filter needed to be cleaned in 3 months instead of 2 months, right? I mean, instead of 4 months or whatever it is, you're missing out on revenue opportunities as well because that filter should have been cleaned. But more importantly, you're avoiding customer disappointment because you're not allowing the system you're not allowing the system or the system's not running to full potential.
And
so
costs.
yeah,
from
costs for sure.
Fixing
And having to
whatever.
run that pump faster or whatever it may be.
Customer retention. I mean, it just drills all the way down to every point.
So Stan, you guys you saw this problem, you saw this issue, or you saw this opportunity, right?
Saw the opportunity.
Saw the opportunity, and you guys said, okay, I think we can do it. You bring the technology from, and it's funny, you think, well, what the hell does the restaurant business have to do with the pool industry, right? And we preach this all the time. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? Business is business and people are people. You just kind of shift things around, right? And it all can apply, but you do a little tweaks here, a little change here according to the industry or the customer that you're serving. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So you came with a bunch of experience in the restaurant business, right? And solving these problems. You guys see these opportunities in the pool industry because you're a pool owner and you've experienced it and you said, hey, there's a better way. You look to see if there's something available. You don't find anything. You say, hey, I think we can bring some good to it. How do you go about building this platform for the pool industry?
That was an exciting adventure, for sure. Now, a lot of our experiences from the restaurant world really had very direct ways to translate into the pool industry. A good example would be, hey, you now have a piece of electronic that lives a very difficult life in the restaurants. And while we were doing restaurants, I thought, heck, this is the hardest place to have some computer live, somewhere in a hot kitchen above a fryer getting splashed with oil all the time. I've now reconsidered that. I think that living on a pool pad might be harder still. But it is a very similar set of problems that you're solving from a pure electronics technical standpoint. And of course, then you are actually making, all these different devices dance, right? And they need to work well, and they need to work well together. So one thing that was also a big driver for us thinking, hey, we need to really think about doing something in the pool industry was just the fact that in restaurants, typically you as a restaurant operator get to choose, which piece of equipment you like. Right, you might have many different broiler manufacturers, and each broiler can have all sorts of different things that make it great. And we allowed that, right? We enabled these frequently very large restaurant chains to have the choice. And in the pool business, there just wasn't that, right? You basically had an ecosystem where 3 brands had the entirety of the market, and you couldn't say, hey, I like the Aquastar pump better, or I like the Raypak heater better. You basically had all these trade-offs the moment that you kind of went away from the one sandbox that you were allowed to be in. And so we said, hey, we can take all of the expertise in terms of building support for all these different pieces of equipment. We can, we've built hardware that can live successful lives in northern Canada just as much as they can in Phoenix, Arizona, for example. And so that was hugely helpful for us. We were able to translate that into a pool control system that I think for all the changes we made to the software over the years, and by all means, version 1 of this product looked very little like what you see today. For example, our hardware actually came out to be almost perfect from the first attempt. So the systems we sold on day one can still today run the latest and greatest software, and they almost all of them are still up and running.
That's insane. Now, I know that you talked about, some of the challenges. So you guys came into the industry, and then, we're talking 5 years. You come into the industry, and then we kind of go through COVID, right? And you come out to the market. You're excited. You're gonna, get this baby off the road and get it going, and then all of a sudden,
didn't plan on the pandemic. That was a surprise.
Yeah, the pandemic was tough. Just trying to get hardware through UL during the pandemic. You're faced with hey, we're ready for you to test the hardware. We'll ship it to you. And it's like, well, we're not going to open that box for 3 weeks. We're going to let it decontaminate. It's like, oh, come on, guys. But we're faced with all these hurdles, like trying to just get through certification, right? And eventually you do, right? Because eventually things kind of got back to normal. But it was hard for us to get noticed in the beginning because they had things called like a virtual pool show, right? I don't know if you guys remember that. Like it was like as a manufacturer, that was terrible. Like one person showed up into our room at the virtual pool show, right? So that was like an entire waste, right? And then in the beginning, of course, like everybody thinks you're going to fail, and you guys know how that goes. Like that's nice, you're not Hayward, Jandy, or Pentair, like bye, right? Like don't even try to get onto new construction. Maybe in the aftermarket, you'll be okay there. Like try there. Don't play with the big boys, right? We got all sorts of like, oh, you're being bought by Fluidra tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that's news, No one told.
Most of our M&A news typically comes from the customers. So
yeah, it's honestly true.
And by the way, that's happened to us before. We've been bought a couple times.
Like I've worked for Hayward. I've been sold to Pentair. Like I'm like, okay, and of course none of that is true. But the pool industry has, as we've learned, kind of has a way of creating rumors, and we don't know where they start, but we think sometimes that they're started as a way to slow us down a little bit, and that's fine. I understand. It was tough for us in the beginning because this is a pretty closed community, right? And to begin to get accepted and have the first few dealers believe in you takes a tremendous amount of time. And in the beginning, it was like heartbreaking. I'm sure you guys probably had very similar stories of like no one wants to sponsor you, no one wants to.
Nobody wanted to pick up the phone.
Yeah, nobody wants to pick up the phone. Like Edgar, like nope, click. Yeah, voicemail. Yeah, no. Like we were so excited. Like, hey, we built this most awesome thing that ever was, right? Mm-hmm. Which we would now say is like, oh man, that was terrible. Like we could have done much better, right? But you don't know what you don't know, right? And you have to kind of like work very hard to work your way through. And you have to be able to listen to your customer, and you have to like lick your wounds and realize like what you're, not doing correctly, and fix it, right? And whatever that means, like that doesn't matter, like what industry it is or what part of the industry you might be working in. These are all like core things in business, right? And if you can't do that, like you won't survive, right? So, not only was it very hard to get noticed by anybody, we would tell you that, the first, 2-3 years we existed, it was very hard for us to retain a dealer. And probably like we eventually had like more than 100 things that we probably like core things that we fixed, or made better or enhanced or made easier or had more documentation or who knows, right? But like we definitely had to learn the hard way, what it means to deliver technology to professionals in the pool industry. Something we've never done in our lives. Even if people have left us, right? All of the feedback we got was just tremendous, right? To learn, hey, I didn't get them as a customer, but I got to do these other 7 things because they were disappointed, or this took 10 minutes too long, or who knows, right? we really learned the hard way, and it was a good journey, right? We like that kind of stuff, right? Now, did we wish we somehow knew everything there was to know about the pool industry, having not been here? Like, of course, right? But that's not the way life works, right? Life's hard. To be an entrepreneur is hard. Like, you gotta, be willing to listen and you're gonna get things wrong, right? And how fast you correct those. How do you immediately respond to those? How do you, even if you're frustrated, how do you, treat your customer and your end user, like, no matter what, like that's what defines you, right?
Look, kudos to you guys, right? And it's tough, especially when you build something, right? And you have your baby and you created it, and then to go to take it to an industry or take it to somebody and say, oh, it's a piece of shit, right? You know what I mean? This doesn't do this. And usually you get, most people or most companies would say, forget you. No, this is great. You're wrong. No, it works. I don't need to change this. And, you allow your emotions to take over instead of actively, truly listening to the people you're expecting to purchase it, right? Regardless of whether they're right or wrong, but it has some merit, and somehow, some way,
it does.
In their world, right? Perception is reality, whatever it is, regardless of whether it's right or wrong or whatever, but to them, it's a roadblock. And if you're truly trying to serve them as your client or as your customer, you need to listen to them and find a way to be able to remedy that, so that you can offer a solution to them. It's the same thing with our clients when we're selling to our clients in the backyard, or when we're providing a service to them. We offer a solution to a problem that they have, right? And we give them the best possible solution and deliver on it. If we go back there and say, no, we know better than what you want, then you might win on a couple, but chances are you're not really going to make it in this industry. You're going to have a much harder time. So, being humble enough to eat crow sometimes and say, shit, you know what? Self-reflection, go, yeah, you know what? Maybe it is, and we need to change it. And you guys have said that multiple times. And, like you said to yourself, and just 5 minutes ago, and go, we created this most beautiful thing in the world, right? And we thought it was. And then now, from where you're at now, or where you were at before to where you're at now, it's a completely different animal, simply because you just didn't know, right? You don't know what you don't know, like you were saying.
You don't know. And I think, a lot of the homeowner-y type stuff, I think we kind of got, right? Yeah. Not too much of that has changed, right? But what, we made some core assumptions that just weren't true. If you happen to know how to wire, who knows, Hayward systems, right? You would have no trouble putting the same two wires in the attendant, right? Wrong. That's a wrong assumption, right? We assume that, we chose to do an entirely different business model, something kind of crazy in the pool industry, that, hey, we're going to support every piece of equipment, not only just Hayward, Jandy, Pentair, but we're going to support Aquastar and Raypak and POW Lighting and, down the line, right? AquaCal, whatever, right? We were going to put everybody as a first-class citizen on the platform and let them compete on the merits, right? And if somebody, likes SAM mode on a Pentair light, awesome, buy that, right? If you'd rather control your lights digitally, well, maybe buy POW, right? Maybe you like TriStar pumps, or who knows, you like the i3. We personally, we might have some opinions on things, right? But we simply don't care. We believe, the marketplace, should be open. But one of the challenges of that, now all of a sudden you got all these dealers that for the first time are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to put you on a pad, and happens to have an AquaCal salt cell and who knows, like an i2 pump and a I don't know, Hayward heater from yesteryear, right? And I need to know how to wire this. I need to know how to put it in, how put this heater into remote mode, right? From 12 years ago, what buttons do I need to press, right? And what we totally missed the fact on is we had to become experts in everything in the zoo of pool equipment.
Every product,
right? We had to have these things. We had to kind of understand these things. We had to understand that, oh, geez, gosh, even during the season, they've changed, how the pump is wired or something like that, or it's a different cable kit. It's, not this part number anymore. It's that part number. We really had to be able to, on the fly, within 30 seconds, tell a pool guy and our dealer, this is what you need to do, right? And it's not, go find the Hayward manual from 12 years ago while you're on the pool pad, standing out in the hot sun. We need to be able to tell you, you're going to hold down this button and that button, I don't know, count to 10, and then you're going to press this, that, and the other thing, right? And then it's going to say this. Okay, does it say this? Great, you did it, right? Now let's test it. Do you want us to turn the heater on, or do you want to do it, right? We missed that. We completely missed that, right? We had to go back probably spend like a whole year trying to figure out, okay, you have all these things in the zoo. You want your dealers going house by house, no matter what kind of craziness there is with the plumbing or craziness with a hodgepodge of things. You want them to feel reasonably confident and not to be scared that, you can go in and quote this job and all these existing things are going to work and you're going to be able to hook them up somehow, some way and press whatever buttons you need to press to get them into whatever mode, right? And it's not going to be hard. You're not going to have to go back, right? And there's somebody you're going to be able to talk to in real time, if you want to be on the phone with us and, we'll press buttons when you land the wires, right? Like even if you're just not sure, right? And, we really had to pivot with our training, with our support staff and with our software. Like, how can we make it as easy as possible? Of course, nobody wants to call us like, hey, man, I want to be on the phone with you for 2 hours while I do this job, right? You'd probably rather talk to anybody else other than like our support department, right? But if it's your first time and you're unsure, right? And you don't want to screw up and you want to have success, do it, like we're reasonably friendly, and we had to have people standing by, right? That could help you and do that and be familiar with all these pieces of equipment in the zoo. And like, yeah, it's not a problem that you got an AquaCow, whatever, right? And a Pentair this, and a Hayward that. And, we've had pads with, like 6 different manufacturers, and it's like, it's going to work. Here's what you're going to do, and get people, there. And we missed that, right? That's such an important part. Because, until Stan and I really were going out on these jobs and like you're it's middle of summer in Houston, like that sucks, right? Like,
Zach.
Yes.
yeah, like that sucks, right? And then you realize like, my whole life with swimming pools, I've been a homeowner, right? And I get to go in the pool when it's hot, right? But not when I'm at the Smith house, right? I'm just, here I am, coaching and showing how to install, right? And, you want to be out of there as absolutely as fast as possible. And conversely, when it's freaking cold out, like back in Pennsylvania, it's 5 degrees. Like if you're fiddle farting around, like you want to be out of there as fast as possible. Like you just can't stay in the sun that long and you can't, be out in the cold that long. And trying to figure out how do we put all this information like at your fingertips so you know what you're doing, like as you're setting it up and say, hey, I have a Pentair pump, it's an i3, right? And it shows you right there, bam, this is how you wire it. 2 wires here, 2 wires there, right? And, if you're really unsure, call us, right? But hopefully this is good enough for you, right? Like we really had to go back and think about how do we take the dealer and get them through this process and get them through it successfully and easily, right? And I think that's hard. That's like really hard because no one has tried to do this and run this alternate business model because like we wanted to not only be a different product, but run an entirely different business model than the big 3. Like we wanted to, let's compete on the merits, right? And, and we're okay if you don't select us because you love the Aqualink. That's fine. But at least we've opened it up, right? And I think we're very curious, like how long it might take, if ever. Hopefully, everyone will eventually think this way, that, it should work like a Home Depot and a Lowe's, and you can go in there, buy whatever you want, and, get on with your day. If your Pentair pump breaks and you want to get a Hayward one because there's no Pentair pumps, like so be it, right? Like that should be okay.
Absolutely. Guys, let's do this. Let's take a quick word from our sponsors. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add reoccurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. It happened once again.
Oh, wow.
Here's the funny thing is I'm coming over here as I sit halfway on the chair. I'm coming back with John, and I'm like, oh, I forgot that our commercials that we cut some of the time out. We better hurry up. And I'm coming in going, I better close the door. And then I hear it just kind of go
We're all
radio
late on that
silent,
one.
and we're all just sitting here chit-chatting. But that's because we were all talking about geeking out, which is, by the way, guys, I've been like totally geeking out.
No, it's because you
for
threw
the-
me in the corner here, and I had to like go through 4 people to get to my seat.
Well, that was the other thing.
That's
you
the
know.
problem.
No shout outs?
I know. I need to.
That's
just,
what we were
just-
talking
we
about.
were talking. John was just going, dude. You like totally forgot of the people that are listening. You haven't, said anything. So let me go back over here and let me give some shout outs to a couple people. Mr. Howard Pringle. John, I hadn't heard from Howard in a while.
Dude,
How
What'd
you
he
been,
say?
brother? He's like, of course. Hi, John. So Howard always listens. Well, we hadn't heard from him in a little bit, but every time he comes on, hi, John. That's it. No hi, Edgar. No hi, Zach. No hi, nothing. And he'll come in and he'll say hi, Edgar, probably now, but it's
Certainly
always
no
just,
hi, Ben, right?
Yeah, no hi, Ben. No nothing. It's just hi, John.
Edgar's
So
traumatized by
yeah,
that
so
one.
it's got me. Mr. Michael Kraus, good morning. We got Brett Thacker, looking forward to seeing these systems take off. Eric Nilsson, good morning. Truly my favorite automation system I've installed and used. No other system can compare to their software yet.
Awesome.
Good morning, Pool Nation. Amazing system. I remember saying, have you heard of Poolside Tech? Now I watch Pool Pros say to the other Pool Pros, you need to switch, and here's why. So absolutely love that. Big shout out to everybody out there. Mr. David Jones is on. It looks like he's off the plane.
He's off the plane.
He's off the plane. So our poor boy David Jones is a great guy. So David Jones, everybody from Pool Nation knows him. He used to do a lot of training for us previously with another company, and then he came over to the Poolside Tech. And I have to tell you what I love about David, and that is that we went to him for the first time, and probably like you guys looked at us when we went, we want to do all these hands-on classes, and here's what you need to do, and here's what we want you to do, and we're going want, right? It's just what we always do, right? The want. And I remember him looking at me kind of like, you freaking kidding me? Like, I'm going to have to do like all that, because we threw a lot of stuff at him, right? and he came into the first class, and he like knocked it out of the park. And we were like he went way beyond what we asked for.
He knows what he's doing.
And, you know, and then he comes over, and then we were supposed to do another training, and he came to me, like 3 days before, and he's like, oh yeah, I won't be there. And I went into like full panic mode, right? And then he calls me one day, and he's like, I'm with Poolside Tech, the attendant.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh. And then he comes over, and, you know, obviously he helped us manage the stuff for the Pool Nation conference. And I turned down to John and Zach, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't even need to talk to him. I know he's got this. I can sleep at night. I don't have to worry about the content. And man, you guys just took that to a whole nother level with those setups that you guys had in those rooms.
Like, I was shocked when he first was explaining this to me.
You're like, what?
What? You want to ship all and do what? And this and it's going to happen 217 times? I'm like, what?
Well, I think Dave is a real pool geek, and you know, we were thrilled to have him. He, I think, shares a lot of the things we believe in, and for you know, it's actually very lively conversation with him almost all the time as we're noodling on new software features, or perhaps lamenting something that we could do a little bit better. You know, he brings a wealth of industry expertise, and you know, I think this is the thing that makes us much stronger now, because you know, we now have this mixture of you know, real industry veterans working on these problems together with folks who, you know, are able to take a kind of a more zoomed out look at what's going on, and he's been awesome to have on the team for sure.
Absolutely awesome. Hey, here's one of my favorites, Sabrina. Which big huge shout out to Sabrina. She's part of our Pool Nation, our Pool Nation Business Matrix. She says Poolside Tech's hands-on classes during the Pool Nation conference was fantastic. I run the office, but I was able to wire it up and program it in no time. Great product.
That's awesome to hear.
That is absolutely awesome. And then let me give a couple more shout outs, Zach, and then I'll turn it over to you. But Great Pool Sharks, big shout out to you. Cyclone Filter Cleaner, what's going on? Josh, Panther City Pools, big shout out. Justin, what's going on? Big shout out to all you guys out there.
So Stan, I want to ask you, the pool industry is often dominated by like a few key players. I want to get a better understanding of, as you guys were looking at entering the market, like what were some of the challenges that you were faced with, and how did you maybe overcome those?
Well, so it might come as a complete shock to you, but it turned out that nobody wanted to be our friend. And you know, what we've obviously there's some real business reasons for why the industry developed into what it is today, and unfortunately, we felt that those reasons were mostly serving the manufacturers and a lot less focused on the consumers, the pool professionals, and in the end, the homeowners. And so, what we really tried to pursue was, you know, how do you open this? How do you promote choice? How do you promote the ability for everybody who's in the space to be able to select what they want, right, and win on merit? And Bob spoke to this a little bit earlier. But obviously, when you're starting in from scratch, you know, we ended up having to do a lot of engineering, a lot of reverse engineering, and you know, building the knowledge base, right, very frequently by, you know, with obviously zero assistance of any kind, to be able to become not only software experts, but also to be able to support all these products. And, you know, it took us a while, right? But I think that we've gotten to a place where our support team is capable of supporting, you know, literally anything that's been on a pool pad probably in the last decade or so. And very frequently, one of the really nice things as you start to scale this is we actually have visibility into everything that's going on, right, nationally. So we know what's going on. If there's a bad batch of product from some vendor, right, we see it. And what we can very frequently do for the pool professional is we can actually tell them, like, hey, you're struggling with this, I don't know, pump, for example, right? And we see that this is, a bad batch, right? And there's you don't need to spend hours and hours frustrating over it, right? You need to, go warranty this thing, for example. And this is something that our support team is, I think, in probably one of the most unique positions in the pool industry to help do, is because we really control the whole pool pad, right? Typically, we are the first phone call that folks make. And, our whole ethos is, you'll never see, and, me and Bob, I feel very, very strongly about this. Our support team does not have it in their vocabulary to say this is not our problem or this is not our piece of equipment. We will fight the fight with our customer until there's absolute certainty as to what is going on, how, you can go about resolving that. So this has been obviously a lot more difficult. I keep telling Bob that we need to get a poster in our office that will say something like, we do the things we do, not because they're easy, but because we thought they were easy.
Very true.
And I think, me and Bob have this conversation regularly where we go like, and now we know everything there is to know, only to be humbled like literally next day by the next set of challenges. And that is obviously both good and it makes us in the end stronger. So, the cases when we don't know, right, or the cases where something does go wrong, the thing that I think got us through a lot of these initial hard times and continues to be very, very powerful is we will take our engineering team and make them pause whatever they're doing to solve a problem for a customer. There's lots of examples of that, but one that kind of seared its into my memory was we had a pool professional troubleshooting lights in Florida, and they were just having a really hard time selecting the right colors. And our support team went back and forth with them, and they said they had a one of the big three lights, and we obviously control thousands of these lights, and it just wasn't working for them. Eventually, they ended up pulling the light out and discovered that it was some Chinese knockoff from eBay that was there. And even though the homeowner and the pool professional thought, hey, we have this brand name light, it turned out that they didn't. And we obviously, looked at that could have been the end of that conversation. But, interestingly enough, we actually found the instruction manual for that Chinese knockoff light, and we made our engineers spend a few hours typing. And next morning, that pool professional had this Chinese knockoff light supported on the platform, and he could select his colors. And in the end, he had a happy customer, and he was out of this, pretty sticky situation. And the fact that we can do this, the fact that we can pivot, the engineering team very rapidly, the fact that we can actually deploy these software updates over the internet, in a matter of minutes, really, it's been the thing I think that got us from this early set of ideas, which I think were great, but also a little bit naive, and got us to a place where we now have a platform that is really the most comprehensive out there.
Yeah, I love it, and you've talked about it before, and again, in the pool industry, success is built one relationship at a time, right? And the pool industry is not one of those that you can come in and walk in and say, hey, I got this beautiful phone, and everybody's going to just automatically buy it, right?
Very true.
It's one of those where, and I love it, right? And it happened to us. It's almost like that grassroots, and you have to be ready to put those marching boots on and just go hit the battlefield and go out there one at a time. But it's also an industry that is built on relationships, and we talk about it all the time till we're blue in the face, and people are like, yeah, right? Once you have that customer's loyalty, once you have that person's loyalty, you'll probably have it for life. But the way that it's built is exactly that way, because in most situations, it would have been like, oh, you have a Chinese knockoff. Sorry, there's nothing we
in
can
most,
do.
in every, imagine calling Pentair. Okay, right? Imagine calling them.
I didn't want to say that,
let's
but
just be
hey.
honest, right? Imagine, and it could be any. Imagine calling them and saying, "Hey, look, I'm trying to hook up this light and it's not working," or I'm trying to hook up. I'm putting this Jandy pump in. And I can't get it to work with the system. It's not working. It only gives me that option. And I'm going, hang on real quick. Let me figure this out for you, and make it work.
And let me have the engineer spend some time.
Now, look, I get it, right? And that's also the benefit of being a smaller company, right? Being privately owned, right? It's also the benefit when you look at different pool companies. There's companies out there that have 5,000 accounts and they're big conglomerates, right? And they own a lot, and they run a certain program, right? Where you're an independent. There's value and benefit to that as well. And people talk about this, and we know, the 9:00 text at night to the corporate office that's working from 9 to 5, right? With 5,000 pools. You're probably not going to get a message back, but we're a little bit different as, a smaller provider. We have that luxury, that ability. And you guys, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to do what the other guys are doing, you're taking advantage of it. And more importantly, you're putting your money where your mouth is, right? And you're living up to what you're saying. And you speak on it a lot, Bob, when you talk about like the merits, right? We're going to, let the best pump win, let the best heater win, let the best salt system win, let the best automation win, right? Yep. I preach this all the time, and I talk about this, and I say, hey, look, I don't want to be confined to one brand. We talk about it when we first brought Aquastar on, and we talked about the pipeline filter years ago, and the biggest thing was square footage, I got to replumb, I got to do this, I got to do that. When we talked about the Avia heater, when they introduced that, and they said, it doesn't line up, I got to do this, I got to do that. But at the end of the day, it's like our jobs as professionals out there is to offer the best solution for our clients, not what's the most convenient solution for us, right? And I believe that if Pentair is the best automation for that application for whatever reason, and you believe it, and they proved it with results, then by all means, that should be it, right? If it's the attendant, then that's what it should be.
Honestly, I'd be comfortable with, we shouldn't exist if we weren't good, right? And you got to live by that, right? So
100%.
If Pentair was so much better than Poolside Tech, by all means, they're huge, buy from them, right? Don't buy from us, right? But that wasn't the marketplace we walked into. So it's obvious you have three major players. One of the things that's kind of great, in the position that we are as we continue to grow, and we get, a lot of support, let's say from an Aquastar, and a lot of support from like a Raypak, right? Those companies are willing to go above and beyond with us, which is awesome. So for example, like Raypak, when they were designing stuff, they wanted us to not only have all the data points of the heater, and Stan could go into all the nitty gritty of the things we can get off of it, but down to what does it say on the little display? What words are you showing people, right? So that you can truly know exactly what it's doing without having to go there, right? To not only just read all the sensors and everything like that and have them, they surface, what they believe is the part that needs to get fixed, but also to never have to ask, hey, go outside and tell me what it says, right? To truly take all that away so you could, really, get down to it. And, Aquastar, the same way, right? That there's nothing under the curtains to hide. And there really isn't, right? Because that doesn't do anybody any good if you want to hide things under the curtains. Everybody knows you got to drive to a job to fix it, right? So to hide something under the curtains is silly, right? It's really nice as we've grown. I know Todd from Aquastar happened to be our 10th customer. I had no idea who Todd was or what Aquastar was when I got into this business. I just know this guy on LinkedIn messaged me hey man, I just put in your automation system. I'm Todd from Aquastar. And I'm like, okay, let me see what Aquastar is real quick. I started going through the catalogs. I'm like, hey, drain. And I didn't really understand what Aquastar would mean to me. as the years, went on.
Progressed.
I'm like, yeah. But it's like little things like that where, it was neat to build a relationship, with Todd very, very early on, right? Even though I don't think, either of our companies, would have guessed as to how we would have started aligning in the marketplace or anything like that. It's great to see, that level of effort. And like, we hope as Poolside Tech that, dealers will see the value in that combined solution and like, yeah, this is better. And this is better because they put that time in and they put their energies into making sure this pump or this heater is going to really save me that trip, right? Like that's significant and that's meaningful, and the proactiveness and everything we keep talking about, that and that level of cooperation, right, is really great to see. And
in fact, I would say that it's kind of really warming my heart every time I see this. But we actually see a lot more cooperation between, let's say the part of the New 3 Alliance, but also, with a lot of different vendors that now come to Poolside, compared to different departments inside of some of the usual suspects that you see. I mean, I'll give you an example that will probably be something that a lot of you guys have experienced. If you have a heater hooked up to an automation system, when you turn on your spa, what do you see on the heater? What is the temperature that the heater shows?
What's the temperature that it shows?
Yeah, it will show the maximum temperature.
Yeah,
it will show
whatever
like 104 degrees,
yeah.
right? And how often does the homeowner call you and say, "Hey, my spa, I'm trying to heat my spa to like 86 or 95, but the heater shows something else." Right. Well, this is true of basically all the heaters up until very, very recently when we started cooperating across different vendors, just to make sure that, hey, it's very important that like it shows the same number across all the devices, right? Otherwise, somebody's going to have a question, and chances are, it's the pool professional is going to be fielding that question. Maybe they're going to claim that something doesn't work, right? It's these little things.
Or Stan, like even like another example with the heater. So we can, with like Raypak, take the internal temperature inlet and outlet of the Raypak and use that instead of like your classic water thermistor you'd put in line, right? And like when you do something like that, you've eliminated one additional point of failure because as we know, sometimes there's a disagree and like the heater thinks it's up to temperature, but the automation doesn't, right? And now it's 2 degrees too cold because the homeowner is seeing like different numbers, right? And we see it at Poolside Tech, you get these calls like, it's not quite 100. It's like, oh, it's a bummer because like, your Pentair heater thought it was, right? What a bummer, right? So when you have, something as simple as these different numbers you're showing, a homeowner or a pool guy or gal, like you do open up, a can of worms that someday these numbers are going to disagree enough and, who knows, the hot tub's not going to be hot enough, right? And you see 2 different numbers, right? And it's something simple as just eliminating an extra step. So like, with a Raypak heater, now we don't ask you to put in a water thermistor. You can if you want to, but you don't need to, right? If you like the one that happens to be built into the Raypak, that's awesome. So like save it, don't put it in, put it back in your bag, use it on a rainy day somewhere else, right? And don't have to worry about things disagreeing, right? So like we can continue to like eliminate things because they're already built in, right? Yep. And it's just a little thing, right? But it's going to possibly down the line eliminate a call, right?
And you take 20 of these little things on a single pool, right? And now you've meaningfully changed the game, right? That's what really excites me is how you can see this really become significantly easier, significantly better to diagnose for everybody. Pool professionals or homeowners.
Yeah, like, or it's something simple like, hey, you forgot to set the max set point, right? Like on that particular device, like we can, right? So like you're not going back, right? So because we can have visibility into this whole thing, we've seen, sometimes, unfortunately, a dealer will forget to set the max set point and like leave it at 80 or who knows, right? And then what happens next, doesn't heat, blah, 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 call, blah, 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 drive back, right? It's something as silly as that, right? Where like everybody knows, where it needs to go to. Just please set it, Yep. It's all those little things. And as we see support calls come in.
So hold on. So because you have dual or dual communication or back and forth communication, you're able to look into the system, say, hey, look, the heater's only set to 86 degrees.
Correct.
The call for heat is you want 104, but it's only set to 86.
Yeah, of course, it's never going to work.
Because that's usually what the problem is.
A lot of times,
they see 104. It's usually like, my heater won't go. It says it's supposed to go to 104,
and
but
how many
not.
times have we gotten a support call, right? So you start to think about this, and it's like, and this has been going on since the dawn of time in the pool industry, right? But you think about like, okay, how do we make this one stop, right? And the only way you make this one stop is like, we need to not have 2 water thermistors, and we need to be able to set the set point, right? And if you can like achieve those 2 things, you've eliminated a whole swath of things that could potentially go wrong for someone with like an HVAC device, right? And it makes all the sense in the world. Just endlessly adding thermistors into plumbing does nobody any good, right? It just, creates potential confusion, right? And it's extra steps, it's extra work, right? Nobody benefits from performing extra steps and extra work and creating, duplicate numbers, right? And it's, those little things. If you can get those things right, even though, you don't know when that's going to save you time, because now we've just simply taken this problem away. You'll never see it again. But you're just not going to have that happen, right? And then
so what happens in that case that they set it to 84? It's supposed to go to 104 because you talked to the heater through your application. You could just
set it to 104.
So John, you could be sitting at home eating
awesome.
bonbons, feet up, and go boop 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 boop. Done.
Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers.
Well, it's even better. He doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to think about it.
So the system automatically.
it will just
So
happen.
like everybody knows what it's supposed to do, right? I think that's logical, right?
Right.
And asking John to perform additional steps, right, is a waste of John's time, right? Isn't it? Right.
Yes,
You're talking
100%.
John's language now.
Yeah, no,
you
I'm
should.
digging
I
this.
see his brain, and as soon as you said that you didn't have to add
earlier
the
you were
thermistor, he was
trying to like
"Ooh."
egg me on to say cheeseburger, and John and cheeseburger, but you think
I do
about
love cheeseburgers.
you think about like all these little things that we kind of do as an industry, and some of it's duplicative. Other things are tech that was already on the pad that we weren't using, and you certainly need to have partners that are willing to cooperate. Right. But they're all really good ideas, right? You don't want to have to train your techs on these additional steps to perform to complete the job, right? Because often it's all too tempting to see the heater fire and declare victory, right? And boy, have we've seen that plenty of times, and like we're not there usually with you, right, on the pad, to remind you, please, press these buttons and up and down, do whatever, right? And so you kind of learn like, okay, are these steps even necessary? No, they're not, right? Was it useful to ask John to put in an additional water thermistor? No. Is it useful to ask John to remember to program set points? No, right? So let's erase, right? As Elon Musk would say, like delete, right? And just start deleting, right? So like, what is the, what do you need John to do? Like you need him to plumb it and connect the wires, right? And but then you don't want John to do anything else, right?
Yep.
And that's really what.
That's huge.
And I look at it
That's
too.
huge.
I mean, not only that, but you can pre-diagnose the system as well, right? And not everybody has the luxury to have every single part on their truck. And how many times have you guys gone out to a problem or to an issue to do a repair, and there was actually something wrong, but you didn't know what it was, and you just happened not to have that part. Now you have to create
Right
another
back.
app and come back and forth, right? That's how I look at it. You're able to look. I mean, it's pretty amazing as a tech, right? When how you can diagnose so many problems, and I know exactly what's wrong by figuring this out or whatever. And I'm just sitting there. I don't know if you've seen that meme with the, with all the
numbers,
calculations
yeah.
and stuff. And I go, yep, you got this is bad, or this is what's wrong, or this is what's happening, or they forgot to do this or forgot to do that. But to actually have cold hard evidence or data to be able to look at and say, oh shit, this failed, right? And I know I need to bring this part in order to replace it, right? It's not the filter because I'm getting plenty of flow, right? So it might be a pressure switch that might be bad on this unit, right? Heater's not, or whatever, that's the error.
And look, the sad thing is today, a significant majority of new devices that are on the pool, they already have all this built in, right? It really was just a matter of
Putting it all
let's
together.
put it all together. And sometimes when you don't have a direct input, like you don't have some device saying my fan proving switch didn't close, for example, you can still piece together a lot of other evidence because fundamentally when you show up to the pool pad, you see, hey, the pump is making these noises, right? It's spinning really fast. I'm not getting any flow, right? You without sensors, you are going to be able to piece together what's going on. And believe it or not, a lot of this is possible to do with computers as well, right? And it can give you all this information, right, put together into something that you can use even if you're not there.
Yeah, valuable.
I want to ask, we talked about like some of the challenges entering the market and things, and I have to imagine, I could be wrong, but I have to imagine that one of the things is that there are people that like hear about this, they learn about it, they're genuinely excited, but they just don't take the leap. And maybe it's just they're comfortable with what they're doing, and that leap is just a little bit scary of trying something new and kind of learning about it. I want to ask you guys, what role does like the education and the training in the product play in getting new dealers to kind of come on board?
That's huge, right? So certainly we have a lot of people that are scared for whatever reason, right? I think we tend, if you read our press and from our dealers, we tend to have a lot of good success stories, right? But it's still new and it is still, potentially scary. With us, like we've invested very heavily in the training, department, like on the front end, on sales engineering and upfront training, right? If we can, get somebody to do that, hopefully, we can. We have boots on the ground that will come to you and help you do your first one, and we'll, be right there alongside with you in the person. We'll land the wires together, and we'll stand over your shoulders and watch you do it, right? And then, walk you through the interview in the app and setting up your, your pump and your heater and your salsa, whatever. And, honestly, we do have a lot of people like to surprise us. They go to the, they take it off the shelf of their favorite distribution center and call us and, surprise, right? I'm here, I'm ready. And,
Let's go.
Yeah. So we have a lot of avenues like that we love to train you. Like obviously we'll train you in person, at like a Pool Nation boot camp, right? We'll train you in person on the first customer pad that, you want to do. We will train you, virtually ahead of time and help you, size the system and like, what do you need? And like, get you familiar with how you might need to connect the wires and, what, you might need to do. We have, live Zoom support too. So you can schedule like, hey, I'm going to do my first one or even my 14th one. Like it's been 2 months, and I'm going to be at the Smith household from 2 to 3 PM. And you'll have a live technician guaranteed on the phone with you for that, whatever you booked, like an hour. And, hey, we'll go through each pool device. Okay, you said you connected the pump. Let's try it. I see watts and I see, GPMs. I think it's moving water. Do you see water? Yes. Okay, great. All right, now let's check the valve positions. Like they're supposed to be in pool. Are they in pool? No. Okay. Do you mind moving, the tabs, right? Okay. Are they in pool now? Yes. Great. And, on and on down the line. Or, like I said, you can call us live and we'll answer the phone in less than a minute, right? And you can play that same game, right? And we will, spend, sometimes we'll get calls, people haven't even run the wires yet, right? And they're just not sure what to do, right? So it's like, okay, well, let's, survey the situation. Let's write down every piece of, pool equipment you have, and let's discuss how we're going to bring the wires over. And like, honestly, some people keep us on the phone, which we're okay with. And other people are like, okay, I will run the wires. I'll, call you back in an hour, right? We've invested so heavily in our training department. We have a lot of great people that, came from the industry, happened to obviously come from one of our big three competitors. I think some of you obviously know where they came from, right? But we're very grateful that, we can deliver a first-class support, experience. I don't ever want to hear, as a CEO of the company like that, a dealer was not able to reach training, was not able to reach a technician, struggled on the pad. Like anytime there's a struggle, they have to report to me what they perceive happened, right? And maybe, the customer, was just unfamiliar. They needed like a, whatever it might have been, right? Maybe they, had to run 4 wires instead of 2. And that was, frustrating because they had to now, go bring their electrician back because they, did not run 4 wires instead of 2. Like, did our documentation say 4 wires? Yes. Is there anything like led them to believe that? No, but, still we need to be like, I will, circle back to the sales team, hey, get on the phone with them, like explain there's live training, there's, all these things. Please never get frustrated. Like if you're just unsure of what you think you need to do, spend 2 minutes and ask, right?
And look, I think we are sort of having to untrain the pool professional because I think historically a lot of them try to avoid calling various support organizations because it's not a good time. You spend a lot of hours and results, let's just say, may vary. right? And so what we've been really trying to do is to actually make sure they understand, hey, like these are going to be smart, knowledgeable, friendly people who will immediately jump in and help you. And, they have a whole backroom of engineers behind them to back them up, right? In case, something goes that even they don't fully understand. And that's just not been the case, I'm afraid, in a lot of prior experiences for our customers. And so, breaking through that and making sure that like they understand that it's actually a lot of times faster to call us, get an answer, rather than trying to frustrate through a problem, alone, is something that we're still working on. But I'm personally very excited about our partnership with Pool Nation, just because of the education focus that you guys bring to the table. And with what we do, we inevitably cover essentially everything that there is about a pool, right? It could start on something as simple as hydraulics and optimization of flow, to water chemistry, to and energy management and things like that. And obviously you guys cover the whole gamut, and we actually really try to make sure that there's a real solution for almost any of these problems that a pool professional is fundamentally charged with solving. So together between I think our external training efforts, like our partnership with you guys, and all the things that we do in-house, we're really hoping that we can start to change the overall perception of, hey, automation is scary, it's hard, it's not going to, it blew my mind that for probably first couple of years, we encountered lots of pool professionals who were against any kind of automation because they perceived that it increased their workload and it increased the number of phone calls they got back, right? And the exact opposite really has to be true, right? And that's what we've been super focused on.
So look, we've been talking. I can't believe it's been an hour and a half
No,
already, right?
dude,
This
and
is like
I
blown
know,
by.
and I have probably about another 10 questions I want to ask, and I'm not because I know we're.
Are we going to do
time.
lightning round?
I feel like you're going to summon us back to Dallas. Right?
No, we definitely will. But look, I want to make sure we get this in before as our next question, because I think this is really important. The story, right? How it started, where you guys are at, what you're trying to accomplish, but what I kind of want to get into is kind of the nitty gritty here. And I want to talk about some of the features, the real life features and capabilities. And I know we've alluded to some of them, and we've talked a little bit about them here or there. But we haven't really listed them out. And this by no means, I want to talk about it, but I don't really want to get too much into detail on them because I think we need to come back, right? And then talk about these abilities that the automation offers, and then how we can utilize that so we can be more successful, more profitable, right, and have better customer service for our clients. But if we can kind of go through some of the key features and capabilities that you believe sets the system apart from other traditional automation systems in the market currently.
The elevator speech, the hardest part.
and Ben on the couch actually has like a
like
a giant piece of paper that he can do like a 40-minute elevator speech, and he can go through feature by feature, like who does what. I think obviously we were trying to bring something exciting and new, and obviously for our dealers, we wanted to provide a revenue opportunity because if you were to believe Pool Corp numbers, less than a third of the pads are automated, and the definition of automated includes things like Intermatic, right? So you look at this huge landscape of opportunity. It's like a time before people had cell phones, right? And then all of a sudden, eventually, everybody got a cell phone. So there's this opportunity to bring something modern and fun. We truly believe that the new younger homeowner wants this kind of stuff. They don't expect the old kind of stuff, right? And so we wanted to bring something that you could generally it looks cool. It's modern. The homeowner should be delighted by this. You're not going to disappoint them when you put it on, and you could gain extra, hopefully make a good day's money, right? For putting it in, if we made it nice and simple. On the homeowner point of view, when you're pitching it, the first thing, we normally want to start with is either energy savings, hey, we're going to do this smart. Previously with, whatever automation system you might have had, it's not factoring in the weather. It's not figuring out when to turn on your heater, heat pump, solar array, whatever you got, right? chiller, swamp cooler. Like it's not trying to figure out the most energy efficient, and it's not telling you how much you spent and how much you saved, right? That's, the first thing. The second thing is, maybe you're trying to eliminate some of your chores, right? So, maybe you want your water chemistry monitored and you want it to, microdose and automatically do this. And then I will just, fill up your tanks, right? And make sure that everything is good. I'll test the water every week, but, it's going to keep the water perfect, day in and day out, right? 24/7. Maybe you want your lights dancing to music. So with some of the modern lighting, for example, from POW Lighting, and a little bit like the new Janney Infinite watercolors, like we can do more things like custom shows, make POW lights, dance to music, right? And some other vendors like that. So maybe you want your plants and whatnot like lit up. So maybe there's more revenue opportunity to upsell, landscape lights because now it's meaningfully different, right? Maybe you have an Airbnb situation and you want to control how much that heater runs, right? And you want to make sure when hot tub's time's over that it goes back to filtering and, right? Maybe not all the guests pay for heating, right? So you need to easily be able to gate that, right? We really, thought about, how can we make it simple, easy to use, understand, like have it tell you, hey, you're going to heat up the pool and today it's going to be $217. Well, maybe you don't love your children that much. and the answer is no, right? Because like it'll tell you within seconds, it's like $217 with today's water temperature and today's weather, right? And maybe the answer is no, like that's not a good idea to heat my pool today. I'm sure a lot of people don't understand because, like your car tells you, how many, how efficient it is, right? How many miles you're getting per gallon. Like your pool's never really kind of like in a normal way kind of surface this information. It's like a pool guy can kind of like deduce some things, right? And understand, oh, Jesus, my filter gets dirtier. It's higher RPM, blah, 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 that kind of thing, right? But, to most people, that's, way above their head, right? To understand, hydraulics and pump affinity law and that kind of stuff. Like that's far too hard, right? So like this stuff kind of needs to happen automatically, not only for homeowners, but ideally for dealers. Like you shouldn't have to worry about it. Just like we were saying, like John should not have to worry about installing extra thermistors and setting set points. And, he shouldn't have to do that. Like it should just work. Right. So for homeowners, like we really wanted this, hey, this is a new fun thing. Opens up a world of possibilities. Hopefully not only after I put in this, like you're going to want lights later, I can upsell you on some lights. Right. And then, it opens up a whole, new world. And I get to see exactly what's going on and I get to be proactive for you, right? So I'm now monitoring your pool. Like I can, if you wanted me to, I can see your water chemistry. I can see if you have an equipment problem, when something fails, I can be way more proactive, right? As in like, ideally, hopefully I know, the moment it fails, right? And obviously as a dealer, it's a great revenue opportunity for you. So that doesn't slip away to anybody else or the internet, right? To know something needs to happen. And if I get on the phone with them, hopefully they'll select me to, repair, replace, whatever it is, right? And then, for the dealer, we spent a ton of time on just making it really simple to install. Honestly, like the last 2 years of our life was really dedicated to, hopefully like a less than 2-hour experience, right? But to really, hone that in, right? And then how do we surface meaningful alerts that, you guys can understand? Because like we did assume in the beginning, like, oh yeah, you must have studied, the Hayward error code list and be very familiar with all these, 72 things. And like, surely you know what to do when, drive sync error appears. But the answer to that is no. Like you haven't studied every single manufacturer. And, how do we surface to you, what needs to happen in an actionable way, right? That, you can, make sense of as a professional, right? And then, do the right thing. Stan, I'll let you.
I think you covered a lot of it actually.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing too is, we really talked about making the complexity kind of disappear, right? Blend into the background. That's what it's really all about in the end, right? I think that if you distill what Bob just said into like 3 core ideas, it's basically, delight your customer, make more sales, and be able to service that customer in a more efficient way. And this is all these things, they come together to help you get those 3 outcomes.
And I'll do a quick analogy with a car, right? Because I like to use the car quite a bit. So like our cars today tell us, not only are you low on gas or whatever, but you only got like 30 miles, and that's meaningful. Like that tells you something, right? It tells you when your air pressure is low, and that's helpful. It's either kind of low or it's like, or you got a flat low, right? And you kind of know what you need to do. Or like, the other day, my wife was like, "Hey, says low coolant," right? And she was able to at least say that, right? and I knew I had a job to do, right?
And big shout out to her, by the way.
Big shout out to Jen.
I'm going to defend her, so be careful over there.
Yeah, no, like I don't expect her to do that.
Do the coolant, right?
Yeah, no, like that's unfair, I think, at least in my household. So like I do that stuff, right? So, but if it didn't tell her that, it probably would have overheated eventually somewhere, and then she'd be more sad, right?
Ruin the car.
Yeah. So like, if we think about it's not that scary when you think about cars, how cars are able to kind of gently tell you what you need to do, or the check engine light will be steady or blinking, if something more serious needs to happen, and, failure is imminent, right? And that's, really what we kind of heavily focus on and believe in, because like, if we accept the fact that it's okay that cars tell us if the engine oil's low, like that's a good, that's a good thing. It's not scary. Like we all actually really appreciate that, right? And to tell you that, for example, your salt cell isn't generating because you're not getting flow or whatever, we truly believe that's important. Like, because like now you're not sanitizing, right? And we really want to make it like a car, right? Like I think is kind of like our goal. Like if we have made the pool industry like a car, and it gives you feedback, it guides a homeowner through some gentle tasks like adding air to the tires, where hopefully they don't have to harass the mechanic, right? And surfaces what the mechanic needs to do, right? For mechanic tasks, which are not usually add gas or add air, right? I think then you're winning, right? If you can get that right. And of course, that's hard.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, throughout the years, something interesting as like innovations have happened and kind of come in. And I don't see this much anymore, but there was kind of this like, it's going to take our job away, or like in some way, like now the customer is going to be able to go fix these problems. But I think what you talked about, like make more money, I think that's like ultimately the beautiful thing about having, data and information like this is like you go out with the water pressure switch, you have it, like, you're directed exactly like, here's where I need to be looking and investigating, or here's what I need to be focused on. And you get in and out. And then you're on to the next job. And, now how many more jobs in a day can you get to?
That's just it.
Yeah,
that's
With your two techs, I mean, here's your day. Here it's planned out. Here's the parts that you need to have. You have them, yes or no? Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about my customer going out there and like doing that. And to be honest, there are some things I wish my customers would do. Like you said, put air in the tire.
Well, how about this too? Think about it. It's opening up the eyes to the client on how much you actually do as a pool technician in the backyard.
How much it
Instead
requires.
of, all you do is, it's my pool
Great
boy,
point.
right? He just goes out here and he just cleans a bit. No, bro. There's a lot involved in this shit. You know what I mean?
And that's really true. Like we're like, our goal was never to replace the dealer, right? The goal is to surface it in a friendly way and just make sure everybody's on the same page, right? And I truly believe that's a lot better. Like a car. Like I don't think any mechanic is irked the fact that they can plug in a computer and get an error code, right? That because some guy drove a car in. Like nobody cares about it. Like that's okay, right? And most mechanics aren't irked if somebody fills the car up themselves with gas or adds air into a tire, right? Yeah. So you have to, we know that a lot of these homeowners can't do these things. Like it's scary, like you're playing with electricity and gas or whatever. And surfacing it to the homeowner in a friendly, like really sorry, your heater's not going to work, right? You're not hot tubbing right now. And knowing that, Zach's on the way, right? And he's got the part, like that's meaningfully different versus Zach's going to come out and troubleshoot, right? And then Zach will be back eventually, right? And I think that's all the difference in the world for our industry.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, believe it or not, we've been talking for about an hour and 48 minutes. Yes.
I just want to add one more thing to, I think, one of the neatest features of your guys' product as well is that, and we touched on it a little bit yesterday. It's a living and breathing automation, right? And it's constantly upgrading. And you guys have said it, and Stan, you talked about it when you talked about the hardware and how it was almost perfect the very first generation, and those units are still out and they haven't become obsolete because you're able to do these updates and all these features and these things that you guys are evolving and introducing. It's not a matter of, oh, you had that, we can't use it. You know, we just push it there, and now you have all these new capabilities. And it becoming, the chances of it becoming obsolete compared to other systems, you know, it's a completely different ballgame there. And I appreciate that. It's kind of like, and you know, I don't own a Tesla, so I don't know, but I know they've done stuff like, oh, we did an update, and all of a sudden now your car can,
jump in the air,
rub your feet.
That was an inspiration.
And Elon is sometimes scary and sometimes not with some of his updates. But yeah, no, like I think like we truly believe in that, because like, you know what, Jandy Infinite Watercolor Lights came out a year ago, whatever it was, right, 9 months ago. And we had to implement that pretty quick because we had some dealers that really wanted to put in infinite watercolor lights. But then, you know, the whole base got that, you know, within, you know, a week, right, without the dealer doing anything, right? So that, you know, if some guy who had put the system in 2 years ago suddenly, for whatever reason, wants to give his homeowner infinite watercolor lights, because who knows, right? Don't know why. That's there, that's ready, and, you know, go for it, right? You're allowed to do that. You don't need to go buy more hardware or switch this or do that. Like, it's all software, right? And I really think that's, you know, the way it should be, right? And, you know, maybe people will, you know, run around and replace Pentair lights with infinite watercolor lights, and that's potentially like a really great thing, right? That's, you know, possible without having to jump through hoops or change hardware or, you know, flip boards on the back of computers, right? And, you know, did we see a lot of that happening? Like, probably not, but it's possible, right? And, you know, I think that really opens up marketplaces for, you know, complete freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. Gentlemen, let's take our final word from our sponsors. When we come back, think about those final thoughts. They're coming, right? Did you already go through yours? You already kind of did your final thoughts, bro. Yeah. I don't know.
But I'll say something.
You'll say something?
Maybe. Yeah. You know what? Maybe we'll leave it at, maybe we'll get Stan's and Bob's, or maybe even Ben's final thoughts. Maybe we'll
I think we could consider letting Ben talk.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get, hey, Ben.
Now Ben's mad at you. He's like, bro, I'm here just as an audience. Ben, this is where you're supposed to go. Boo.
Somehow yesterday Ben was the fluffer, and I'll let you guys explain that.
All right. We did not go there. Hey, Spider, take us out.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add reoccurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. How you doing over there, buddy?
Getting old.
You're getting old?
I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Can't do well in cold weather. I guess now it's starting to affect me.
You not do good in cold weather? Like,
I guess my bones and my joints, I think,
and they start to hurt?
start to hurt.
You know, coming from Chicago, it's kind of hard for us to sympathize with.
Like this is like spring, like from we're Philly based. So
Now, how cold does it get over in Philly?
it was 5 degrees when I left.
Oh.
So like this is
This is great for you.
this is lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like this.
Crazy. Anyways, we are talking to Bob. We're talking to Stan from Poolside Tech, the attendant. Believe it or not, we've been talking for an hour and 56 minutes, and it feels like we're at about 30 minutes is what it kind of really feels like. Zach, let me get some final thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Threw the curve for you.
That was a big curveball. No, I mean, I was just telling you guys on break, like, I love this. And this is something we're passionate about when it comes to the business side, is like the data and putting the data together to get good information that we can make decisions off as business owners. And like just hearing your guys' story and like the restaurant side of things, to me, that is so intriguing. Like how you were able to put all these pieces to manage that under 2-minute process to get people through successfully every time so that they can scale that over and over and over. It's just really awesome. And so I'm super excited to see innovation like this and technology coming into the industry. I mean, we're growing and developing as an industry. It's really impressive. So big thank you for coming out here and doing this. And I'm excited to do part 2 and dive into all of the individual features.
Us as well. There's a lot of exciting things coming. I think we have a very busy 25 ahead of us, and I think there's new products that you're
Spill the tea.
Yeah.
Spill the
Come on,
tea.
Stan.
Spill the tea.
We got 2.5 minutes.
You got 2.5 minutes. He's got a big smile on his face.
You got to get that cheeseburger out.
So to be clear, we're a little bit behind on the cheeseburger delivery feature in the attendance. So that might have to be a 26 objective. No, it's actually really, really exciting. There are a number of things that we can't talk about yet, but we've got a partnership with H2Flow, who I'm assuming everybody here is familiar with their FlowViz product. So that is actually now fully integrated into the Attendant, and we're going to be able to do all sorts of really amazing hydraulic things for literally any pool. For the first time, you're going to actually get to take advantage of what your variable speed pump can really do in terms of delivering real meaningful energy savings. We're going to show you what your filters are doing in real time. We're going to be able to really manage your water features in such a way that your laminar fountain doesn't just randomly start shooting water into your neighbor's yard, for example. So that is available now, and as with everything, all of our existing systems are just going to get a software update, and you're going to be able to start taking advantage of this capability as long as you have the right the right sensors. So. That's just one of honestly probably a half a dozen new things that are coming down the road, and we're actually very excited to be able to have you guys and to educate obviously the entire Pool Nation as to what's possible. I think we're now starting to do things that are really completely new capabilities that have not existed in the pool space before.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to give a couple shout outs. I do want to apologize to a lot of people because I got so sucked in that I forgot that everybody out here existed. So I'm sure I'm going to have some upset people.
We kind of wooed you in there.
But hey, Glenn, big shout out. Todd, Ripple Effect, Kevin. David Jones is saying, I will talk about everything. I'll spill the tea. That's my kind of guy right there. I do want to give a shout out over here to, let me see if I'm fast enough to do this. Big shout out to Golden State Pools, Maria from Ensenada Pools, Aquastar Pool Products, Villa Pools out there, Blue Particle Pools, Berry Pools. It's JoJo, that's Only Pools. Big shout out to them, and Yanez Pool Service. Big shout out, Bondi Blue Pools. Big shout out to all you guys, Dyer's Pool. I apologize to everybody else that I didn't give shout outs out there. Just blame John. That's, we'll throw it to John. Look at that.
My burger's cold.
Your burger's cold.
Yeah.
I do want to say one last thing for my final thoughts. Here's what excites me, Zach, John, however this goes. This is my vision, right? And so that I geek out when it comes to the enterprise level. And what I can see in the future is I can see a big, huge pool company, and I can see the pool boys with the TV, with all that data analytics and that dashboard sitting up there, and being able to run your company, right, by looking at real live data as it's constantly coming in there, right? So we talk about when we went to Gold Medal Pools, right? There's a lot of things. They have a lot of things in there that they look at, and complaints and all that kind of stuff. But just to manage having that real live data just sitting there, and having your people be able to pick up the phone and call the customer and say, "Hey, Stan, you got an issue with the heater. We're sending out one of our techs," and the customer going, "What?" Like, think about how that is going to
mission control.
Mission control, and that's the way that I really envision
automatically generating the ticket.
Yep, automatically. That would be absolutely awesome. So I geek out from that side. So the other thing that I want to give you guys a big, huge shout out and a thank you to is we obviously do the boot camps out every year, and Poolside Tech, the attendant, came to us and said, "You know what? We're such believers in the education that we're doing that we are going to cover 25 spots at each of the next 3 boot camps."
Yep.
So big, huge shout out to you guys for doing that. So anybody that wants to do that, I'm going to make it nice and easy for you. Just reach out to me. So if anybody that's listening, those 25 people, we are going to be doing the first boot camp June 27th to 28th at Heritage Pool Supply. And then the next week, we're going to be out in Oxnard at Raypack. And that's going to be, the 7th, the 8th. Check out the website, poolnation.com, right? I can't even keep all the dates together. And then we will be at the PSP Expo in Las Vegas. We'll be doing the Pool Nation conference there. So you heard it here. Just say that Bob said so.
Bob said so.
Bob said so.
Yep.
And 25 people for each one of them. They'll cover the cost. Any final thoughts? It feels weird not having a final thought without you at the end.
You have an idea.
So just at least say goodbye. Final thought. Goodbye.
I will say goodbye, but hey, stay tuned to part 2, where we're going to, we talked about all these amazing features, and it was just literally the tip of the iceberg. But more importantly, instead of just kind of throwing these numbers out or throwing the capabilities out, we want to really dig down deep and tell you how you can utilize those features, right, to help benefit you and to be able to apply them into your route. So I'm looking forward to bringing you guys back out.
I just got yelled at. I said the wrong dates right off the bat. So Justin from Raypack is like, June? Did you say June? We're not doing June. I meant April. I meant April. So I apologize. So
we're doing another one in June as well, Justin, over there.
We just haven't told you yet, Jed, that we're doing another one. You know,
Surprise.
Bob came to us and said, "Can we just do another one in June?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure,
I'm sure
no
they
problem."
won't mind, right?
So, but stay tuned because in the next boot camps, we're doing the individual classes, but we're also doing the pad. The entire class is there. So, anyways, big huge shout out. Thank you guys for coming out. We really appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having us.
Our boy Spider, thank you for taking care of us all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And
Ben on the couch.
Ben,
thank
you've
you.
been amazing.
Thank you for coming out. We appreciate it. Hey, everybody, hope you have a great weekend. Catch me and John live next Wednesday on Instagram. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. PoolmanUniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at PoolmanUniversity.com.